we'll do the first part of the presentation, and I will continue, and we will share a few examples of projects we are involved in France, and also the state of circular economy in the domain of wastewater in France. And we will focus on several examples in buildings and also in wastewater treatment plants. So, Alice.
Thank you, Jullien. Briefly, just to start with an overview of what is circular economy versus linear economy. It has been, circular economy has been already clearly presented by the professor Milena Domin, but in a few words, the main differences between linear and circular economy are, in the case of linear economy, there is no concern on the product's ecological footprint, neither on the pollution, and there is some prioritization of the profit over sustainability. While in the approach of circular economy, waste reducing, promoting reuse and recycling material is at the heart of the project. As previously stated, the general scheme of circular economy implementation in the wastewater field occur mainly at the wastewater treatment plant. Wastewater is collected from various sources, from domestic waste, from industrial effluent, and it goes through the wastewater treatment plant, which is no more wastewater treatment plant, but more a water resource recovery facility. This is a water resource facility because if we consider the water line, there could be some nutrient recycling. And this leads to a reduction of both fertilizer demand and consumption of water and energy for agriculture, for example. But there is also some possibility of water reuse that has been already presented for agriculture, land irrigation. But in the urban environment, it could be for toilet flushing and in the environment for groundwater recharge. Concerning the sludge line, some biosolids are produced, and as Georgia explained us a few minutes ago, phosphorus could be recycled through precipitation to increase the recovery of phosphorus. But there is also some energy recovery through the production of biogas, such as methane, from anaerobic digestion. Let's move now to the main topic of our presentation, which is an alternative scheme from the implementation of circular economy in the wastewater field, because circular approach could be implemented at different levels, from dwellings up to the wastewater treatment plant, but considering also buildings, but also sewer network. At the dwelling scale, there is some energy recovery from grey water. Grey water is the water you produce when you take a shower, when you wash clothes, etc., etc. And you can recover energy to produce hot water. This means energy saving and money saving. At the scale of the building, in this case, you harvest all the grey water at the foot of the building, and then you recover also energy from all the grey water using an heat exchanger, and you can produce hot water for the whole building for everyone, and this is also energy saving. But there's two other aspects that are less known, which are the reuse of grey water after phytoremediation on the roof for toilet flushing. And this time it's also water saving. And this will be implemented in the FITUP project I will speak on. This is a project we are working on in my lab. And the second aspect is the separation at source of urine, because urine is rich in nutrient, carbon, phosphorus, and nitrogen. So there is a nutrient recovery. And this project, Jullien will speak about it. So at the sewer network within the trunk, there's some possibility to recover energy, because wastewater is always at the same temperature, between 13 to 16 or 18 degrees. Therefore, the calories you can recover helps you to warm building in winter, but also using a heat pump, you can cool a building during summer. I don't want to speak anymore on wastewater treatment plant because we have many examples so far. I will skip this slide because I would like to keep on the allocated time, but if you want, we can speak about how to save energy using your shower water. So now I will speak about the FIT-UP project. The general principle of this project is the reuse of wastewater in buildings. The idea is that there's some possibility of each recovery, toilet flushing, green space irrigation for the reclaimed water. However, we are facing many obstacles to implement this approach. The main one are restrictive regulation, because as it was mentioned before, you can use reclaimed water for any aspect. You have to respect some water quality. And so far in France, when you want to reuse reclaimed water for toilet flushing, for instance, you need to produce water very close in terms of quality to the tap water. And the principle of this project is to adapt the principle of phytoremediation in the context of reduced or even non-existing land availability. That means in the urban environment, because phytoremediation is something very often used in France when you are living in a house that can be connected to a sewer network because there is no sewer networks, but you need to treat your own wastewater at the level of your ground. So this is an example of how to treat wastewater. And the idea is to put this at the rooftop of a building. But the problem is that on the ground, you use about 5 square meters per people, while on the rooftop, you will use 1.5 square meters. So there is a reduced space, but the challenge is to get the same efficiency in terms of water treatment. So rooftop phytoremediation is very challenging because there's some environmental benefits. The first are, as I mentioned before, cooling in summer and warming in water, but not this time due to the water, but to the construction of a filter planted on the roof. And you can gain 1 to 3 Celsius degrees. And because there is some plant, you increase biodiversity in the city and you increase the green space. There are also some benefits for users. The first one is a reduction in water consumption. That means money saving. That could be very interesting. And there are also reduction in the volume of water returning to the sanitation network. The volume remains the same, but you use twice the water the first time for shower or for any other uses, but the second time for toilet flushing or for irrigation. It was a research idea at the beginning, but now it's moved from lab scale to a demonstrator. And I'll give you an example of 3 of them. One for collective housing for social landlord. This means it's 30 flats that will have benefits from this. This is the emergency center for the Olympic Games in Paris next year. And the one which is already working is on the roof of the company headquarters of a partner of this project. Briefly, how does it work? This is a scheme of a demonstrator. First, you harvest all the grey water or some of them from your building. In our case, we focus on shower and washing machine grey water because when we study the quality of grey water, this was the one that could be the easiest to treat. There is a pre-treatment, filtration to remove suspended solids. Then from this, you pump up the grey water up to the phytoremediation devices, where water are reclaimed, then you end up with a reclaimed water, and there is the need for post-treatment, which is consisting of filtration and disinfection. Disinfection is compulsory. It has been the French health authority asked them to disinfect water to make sure that there is no more pathogen in the water that will be used in toilet flushing. Then you use your reclaimed water with whatever you want, toilet flushing or green space irrigation. And in the same way, we have to have to develop monitoring of the water quality at different point of the water cycle. This is the raw grey water, the reclaimed water here, and the disinfected water. And the results of this monitoring is sent to the sanitary authority to make sure that it functions. So now I will give the floor to Jullien for the next part of our presentation.
Thank you. Another example we would like to share is another project at the building level and also beyond this. It's the OCAPI project, a project we have in our lab, which means optimization of carbon, nitrogen, phosphorus cycles in the city. And the aim of this project is to get more circularity for nutrients consumption and recycling from the production of food in farms, the distribution of food with the distribution networks and local markets too, and distribution to inhabitants. And then the most important point is the recovery of urine and separation of urine to get back to the farms for food production, and not lose the urine and nutrients in the wastewater. So this is a project that was started by a colleague of us, Fabien Esculier. And, he's done a PhD thesis on this project, and then now he's a researcher in our lab. And the main starting point of this project is the fact that nutrients, and mostly nitrogen, that we consume daily through our intake of proteins from meat or vegetables, is mostly excreted as nitrogen and is going to urea. And if you take this urine to the river or to the wastewater, it's mostly lost or mixed with micropollutants, etc. So it's difficult to recover. Also, this is one of the planetary boundaries. You may have heard of this. It has been published a few years ago, and the last version of this scheme was published a few days ago. I cannot see the reference, but it's like 1 week ago, I think. And nitrogen and phosphorus cycles are one of the 6 boundaries that have been transgressed. So it's a big problem because these natural cycles have been totally interrupted, and it has become a linear thing and not a cycle anymore. Why is that? Because we mostly take nitrogen now from the atmosphere, and we mix it with methane from natural gas through the Haber-Bosch process to produce chemical fertilizers. And then we have food production and consumption by humans. And the thing is, as I said, that all the food all the nitrogen in food is excreted and is going to wastewater treatment plants. Some of it is discharged in the water. And when you have tertiary treatment of nitrogen, it's going back to the atmosphere in the form of N2, or some part of it is going to N2O, which is a greenhouse gas. And so there is an impact on climate change. One of the main problems too is that in the wastewater treatment plants where there is tertiary treatment of nitrogen, this is an energy-intensive process, and also it consumes a lot of methanol that we have to add to the process to treat nitrogen. And wastewater treatment plants are the first consumers in Europe of methanol, up to 40,000 tons per year. But here it's sort of cyclic. But the main problem is that nitrogen coming from chemical fertilizers are mostly lost through leaching here, and is going directly to groundwaters and the rivers. And this impacts a lot the rivers, etc., because, as you may know, this leads to the development of algae through eutrophication, and it's a big problem anywhere in the world. So why? So this is why it's not a cycle anymore. It's going mostly through a linear process, and it's lost. Nitrogen is lost into the rivers. So the aim of the project is to get more cycling, more recycling of nutrients. It has been done for quite some time in a few countries in Europe. For example, in Sweden, there are several villages where urine separation is used with either dry toilets or water closets, and urine is then recycled and used for agriculture. Another famous example is the IAVAC building, the research institute in Switzerland, where they separate urine in the toilets of the building, and they treat this urine in the pilot plant in the building with a nitrification filter and then some distillation process to concentrate urine, and then get this product, which is sold by a company called Luna, commercial company, and it's now authorized for agriculture use in Switzerland. There are other examples in the Netherlands for struvite production from urine also, and ammonium sulfate production. Okay, and in France, we have different examples, some examples in different parts of France, but the most important one is this example in Paris, which is almost finished. It's under construction. It's urine recovery for a whole neighborhood with more than 600 dwellings, 600 apartments. And the goal is to get urine with more than 47,000 liters per year for their collection and use in green spaces in Paris. So this is a major project we have in Paris and also in France. Another project we are working on is in the region of Paris-Saclay. It's a region here in the south of the Parisian region. The goal is to make a big campus so that several engineering schools and universities are going there, and we make a big campus, and it's under construction right now. And the goal is to also recover urine for use in the crops in the fields around the region, so close to the campus. And we are part of this project to study this urine recovery. So there is a first experimental building that has been built with urine collection and some treatment also. With it's a bit like in the IAVAG building with nitrification filters and activated carbon to remove micropollutants and pharmaceuticals. And then there's the final storage, and the farmers are going to take urine in this storage and spread on their fields twice a year. So we already started some experiments with the farmers. First study with wheat and also on cornfields to study the impact on productivity, because farmers are still wondering if urine can be as efficient as other fertilizers. And we also, in our lab, we analyze the samples to determine if there's accumulation of pharmaceuticals in the soil and also in the plants. So we perform a lot of targeted and non-targeted screening analysis. So yeah, the conclusion, we can show that, okay, there's possibilities of circularity of many things, of heat, of water itself, of nutrients in the wastewater treatment plants that are already in place. But also there are potential solutions that can be implemented at other scales. So as we have seen in the buildings, or recovery of urine or grey water at the source and not lose it, not lose the water going to the wastewater plants. But the problem is that there are several obstacles in France. The first one is regulation, because as Régis said, the quality of the reclaimed water must be almost the same or the same as tap water to be used in buildings. So it's a major obstacle. And the second obstacle is that we have already a lot of infrastructures. Wastewater treatment plants are already in place, and there are also sewer networks already present. And it's difficult to modify the structure, the infrastructure, to adapt it and to get new circularity. For example, it's difficult to get for 2 sewer networks to have urine on one side and the other stuff on the other side. But there are some levers. You can integrate these new solutions. For heat exchange, it's easy. You just put a heat exchanger in the sewer networks. And for the other solutions that we've presented, the urine separation or gray water separation can be implemented in new buildings during the construction. So it has already been said in a few presentations. The other messages we want to share is that we have to make stakeholders also aware that these approaches exist, because most of the time they don't know that it's possible to implement other efficient approaches like this, other than centralized systems. And also citizen acceptance and involvement is very critical. So because many people are not used to or are still reluctant to use their urine for food production, so we have to work with them so they accept this. So in the end, we work a lot with a combination between engineering sciences and social sciences too. And I think with that, we would like to thank you for your attention.